I left off basically like, I think we've both experienced, obviously no one's perfect. I've had my moments where I'm maybe not the kindest, but I think the difference between people on this end of the spectrum and people on this end is that maybe when you have a moment where you're like, you know what, that wasn't very kind of me. You're like, hey, I'm sorry about that. That was rude, or like whatever. And your default is usually kindness, so you're able to kind of own your behavior and be like, oof, sorry, I just really snapped at you there. Like, right? Then there are some people who, when you call that out, you become the problem. It's called a narcissist. No. We have talked before about how, like, in order to know the value of kindness, you've seen the value, or not the value, you've seen the detriment of its opposite, which is cruelty, manipulation, abuse. I always cringe when I say abuse because I'm like, but it's actually so common. It's not just like in the movies.
Yeah.
It's not. It's like next door. I mean, it's not just in those places. It's everywhere in the world. Abusive type dynamics, whether that's like financial, verbal, physical, psychological.
Yeah. Well, humanity is the only thing that's going to rehabilitate
Yes.
that. But the human being is very much driven by fear
Mm.
and driven by short-term survival rather than long-term, building a foundation. So in these 27 years and being in the vicinity and being around the normalization of narcissism has seen me deep grief for the loss of life and livelihood and potential and promise that comes about by these practices. And because when children grow up in emotionally difficult environments, they tend to be attracted to, or they tend to attract similar situations. So when I was working, there were a lot of environments that were deeply unforgiving or unfair, or created a lot of these double standards or these unspoken rules. And at a time when I was in the legal industry was still very new in terms of receiving diversity and inclusion. It was the old boys club.
Yeah.
And as a girl with Central Asian background, but born and raised in the UK, I really saw the loss that the legal industry experienced by discriminating against these individuals who had so much to give and so much to offer.
Yes.
So when I was negotiating, my cultural sensitivity and my learned hospitality from my own culture really helped me develop a really strong working relation with clients, whereas perhaps someone who didn't come from the same experiences may not have had the same. So at home, I saw that, or in my community, I saw that I had so much to give, but it was received with jealousy, with competition, with a sense of, this person is a danger to
Fear.
us. There was a fear.
It's triggering, like, it triggered other people's reaction. They're triggered by, sorry, no, I just, okay, continue.
And these kind, empathic people were sent to serve, not to be, to be exiled.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is that kind people are sources of good and contribution, and yet in all walks of life, they are discriminated against, they are harassed, they are undermined, they are, narcissists are sent to spiritually and emotionally and professionally disarm them. And so essentially, to answer your question, is that for me, it was incredible because I knew what I could contribute. I knew that when I had small spaces or small moments or periods where I could breathe, where someone was accepting or allowing or facilitating that kindness, I saw the gold that it could strike and the magic
Oh,
it could create when you let kind people do the work. But much of the time, I was almost, internally weeping for humanity, for the fact that they could not see what was for their own good. And a lot of the time, for example, another example is friends, people who choose friends who are exciting and the life of the party, but always take the kind friend for granted.
yeah.
And then 5 or 6 years down the line, when they go through something really difficult, the first person they think of is the kind friend. And it's almost akin to when in Lord of the Flies, when there is a chapter of the book and it says that I think it was Ralph or one of the other. No, it was another. It was a.
Mhm.
So anyway, it was about how
Yeah.
Piggy, who was the kindest
Yes.
character, humanity weeps for his goodness, for the loss of him, because ultimately humanity loses. And so my own, and I was actually going to make a video about this, but I'll share it here. I'm so grateful for the ostracization. I'm so grateful for the exclusionary practices in work and in society, because it ultimately protected me, but it also fortified the need for this mission. That
Mm.
if I am a threat or I am not accepted by a certain portion of society, there is this universe, there is this world that can receive it, because when you speak their language, people start to listen. And those who want to listen will reap the results. And those who don't want to, it's a shame for them.
Oh, that's a
So, absolutely.
great. I
It,
love that. Those who want
I,
to listen will reap the results because it's a universal law. It's like you said, you're reminding people of what is true
yeah.
because I think people that like come at it, come at like life without kindness, there's this like fear scarcity mentality that if I'm kind, I might lose or I might be perceived as weak. It's got an image problem, right? But
Yeah.
like I'm learning as I get older and older, it always it always prevails and feels the best. It doesn't mean that it's not kindness is not honest. It's it doesn't kindness isn't like butterflies and roses. I feel like it's just calm and like curious, not judgmental, like I don't know, kind. I just feel like if someone were to describe you as kind, that
Mm,
is such a for me, my mom always said, always be kind. Like that's her thing. Like be kind, be kind, kind, be kind, be kind.
yeah.
Um uh but when you experience like the results of someone in the workplace, someone in your family, someone, a friend, a stranger, even sometimes strangers' words will like zing, right? You're like, oh,
Mm,
um, you know that feeling as an empath,
mm,
and then you also know that kindness is like an antidote to that. That like, let's say if someone like burns a hole, like I had a couple trolls that like, they're like, "Who do you think you are, you midlife housewife talking about blah?" And I was like, "Oh," and it was like a zing. And then I ended up making a joke about it. I made a reel, like a funny one, because you gotta,
you've
make
got
light of
to.
things. But then someone, not that I should need the validation, but the kindness that I got in response filled that hole for me. And I
Absolutely.
continued going. What if like everyone was quiet and we were like, oh yeah, you're like, should I say, am I a middle-aged housewife wannabe podcaster? People are like,
Yeah.
just anything kind, a smile at the grocery store. I don't know, like,
Mm,
hey, I like this. And you're like, I'm going to keep going.
yeah.
It has to fill the holes because you get knocked around in life, you know?
Brie, it reminds me of something, and it's almost as if our first meeting, it's almost as if I wish that we were recording that as well, because it
Oh,
was
the
so
first,
powerful. It was the meeting of hearts. But, your story of starting this podcast, comes from great adversity and
Yeah.
something that either you fight or you give up. And I always say that, and when you said, for example, when you asked me, and it's such a brilliant question, and I don't think I did justice to it quite enough,
No.
but in terms of, well, the lack of kindness, how did it fortify your
Yeah.
mission? I have to say to those who are listening, or those who perhaps struggle with kindness, or even to, you know, uh, in remembrance of narcissists and unkind people and trolls, is that kind people are spiritually and universally protected. And so all of
Mm.
those spaces, for example, when you left that horrible job, or me, and a prophet is never accepted in their own land. And obviously I'm not a prophet, but I did have something like everyone to humbly contribute.
Sure.
I am so grateful, and I'm so grateful for those experiences of yours, because good comes from it every time. And
Mm.
I'm just saying to people that kind people are protected. Kind people ultimately do win.
Mm.
It would be great for you to get on the right side, or on the true side of justice earlier on,
Yeah.
because people think that if you're unkind, or if someone has experienced narcissistic abuse,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that things will not become better for them. It's almost a guarantee that after such adversity, there
Yeah.
is so much adventure and so much life.
Oh,
And
it's
for me, it was almost as if whenever I experienced a setback, and I said 27 years, if I experienced a setback, because I only dealt with people and situations with pure intentions, with truth, with sincerity, I always, and the good heart has saved me every single time, I've always been able to re- receive a universal or spiritual or material reward, because the universe is always on the side of the good. I'm talking about those people who not only cause destruction or inflict others with a lack of kindness, but ultimately they're doing wrong to themselves as well. And
mm.
so when I reflect back on all those spaces that weren't inclusive, or community members or members of the same culture who were, who excluded, good intended, well intending, good soul,
Mm.
ultimately they lost out.
Yeah.
So kind people are protected. Kind people, all of these adversities, I would not be here. I would not have felt such a pull to
Yeah.
create ROK and to dedicate all of my life to it if it wasn't for that history of lack
Oh,
of kindness. But I'm talking about those people who think that they can get away with it and for it not to impact them. That probably sounds a bit like a threat, but I'm saying
no.
kind people forgive, kind people win in the end.
Sure.
But it's the unkind that I'm worried about. It's the unkind who never live those fulfilling, beautiful, life enriching adventures.
Mm. Wow. There's like so much that flashes through my mind when you say all of that. Like it's it's like going through adversity, and then specifically narcissistic abuse, something about coming out on the other side that deepens your level of compassion. Like I thought I was empathic before. Like
Yeah.
my best friend Brianna, she's on one of the episodes. She's hilarious. She always is like, oh, she's like a comedian. She's like, oh, such a bleeding heart. She's like, your heart's bleeding all over everyone. Brie, Brie, and like, not like trust me, I'm feisty and I can be really mean sometimes. But what I'm saying is like, she's like, just cool it a little bit. Um, but there's something about, so that was before then, like in my 20s. And after narcissistic abuse, coming out of it, and like once and we talked about the other day how I'm still, it's going to be a journey. But I'm in the best phase I've been in the recovery process. Anyone out there that's, if I'm sure if you haven't gone through narcissistic abuse, you're like, what the hell are they talking about? Like, But if you have, you're like, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Um, there's phases, and then I'm in a phase where I'm individuating, I'm feeling energy, I have a backbone. I've reestablished my identity after a lot of work.
Amazing.
And so my empathy is deeper. However, that doesn't mean that you're not like strong as hell though. Like, and that doesn't mean that you can't be like, my boundary is very clear and like I will very directly tell you. I'm not gonna like, I'm gonna try to be kind, but like I need to protect myself, and
Mm,
I'm not nice. I'm kind. Right?
absolutely.
I'm kind to myself too, by the way. So if you're stepping on that boundary, I can, you know, not just be like, "Oh, sorry." Like, "Sorry you're mad about the boundary." Well, of course you're mad about it because you can't manipulate me now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Narcissists hate boundaries.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry,
And
rant, rant.
no, please. It was,
But that just brought up so much for me. That
it,
kindness is amazing, but it makes you so strong when you've been that low.
Brie, you could not have. Firstly, I would say that I don't think anyone's promoted my business better than you. If
Oh,
you're looking, if you want to be a business partner, then
hey,
you
let's.
know. But the
I
way
think
that
we are partner. I mean, we're already
I
done. We
think
just
we
got to get,
already are actually. But you're such a special soul. It's incredible. And the thing is if you and I had not gone through those difficulties and that deepened almost this relentless mission to save the self from
yes.
the rubble,
Oh my
we
God.
would never have met. The depth of these connections would perhaps never have been formed because kindness requires such an awakening
Yeah.
for it to happen, because indifference in different people are created either by high levels of trauma that makes them indifferent, but that's it's a minority.
Yeah.
But most people don't feel the need for deep empathy and kindness because they've never been required to. No experience has shown them such tragedies or devastations or shocks of the human condition that would inspire them to deepen. And the reason that and again, this is not about promotion for anyone listening, that just keeps
No, I mean,
promoting the company.
you
But
offer a service and it's tied to this. And I'm always talking about my podcast. People are like, Brie, we know you have a podcast. Be quiet. I'm like,
oh, it's so worthy of being promoted. It's so
you
brilliant.
have to. Like, yeah.
But with results of kindness, when you put results and kindness together, it creates this muscular kindness, which is, I believe, the only kind of kindness that exists. Because kind people are spiritual warriors, and spiritual warriors are only fortified in fire and rain
Oh,
and mist and wind. No one wakes up because niceness, a lot of children are nice
yeah.
because they don't have the depth of experiences to be anything other. But when someone chooses to be kind, it means that they've seen the storm and have decided that this is the most effective strategy. And I think that you really are the embodiment of a lot of the final product or the final constitution or the final change that I would like people to go through in workshops or masterclasses or
Sure.
keynotes or consultations at the organizational level, because it's about being armed with a structure, with direction, with clarity, with a desire to benefit, but doing it from an ethical, kindness first approach. And from what I can see, that you are now an empowered empath, and empowered empaths are this are the there is no other archetype of person that would suit leadership or change making or activism. If you look at the profiles of true leaders, not those who've stolen other people's ideas or climbed their way to the top by breaking hands and necks, no, but true leaders are those who are driven by humanity, but are spiritually, emotionally, and psychologically and strategically informed. And so we cannot have kindness without depth, without awakening, without boundaries. And you could not have said it more beautifully. And
Well,
that's why, when people, and I think people are not surprised, but when they meet me, they say, you're not obviously kind. You're peaceful. Because firstly, I would never put on a caricature anyway, like a
sure.
caricature kind of thing.
Yeah.
But if someone is genuinely kind, it's not a clear banner on their head, or it doesn't mean
Like,
they're looking around.
yes.
But it's just how engaged and considered others feel around them, how safe and how seen they feel. And you cannot be, and I would even argue that when I didn't know when I wasn't as emotionally intelligent, maybe I was just nice, I wasn't kind. And perhaps it's also the same that without the boundaries, without that true understanding, the level of kindness may not have been as deep or as sincere or as unwavering as it is now.
Oh my gosh.
Don't you think, Brie?
That just blew my mind. What you just said just made what you said. I think before, and my therapist is amazing. Her name is Lucy, Healing Her Stories. Like, I'm finishing my little program, I'm about to graduate. And she specializes in like narcissistic abuse recovery. She's amazing. She's been through it years ago. Long story short, her whole thing with me is finding my voice and my authenticity and not needing validation. So I just realized before this new phase of here's what it is. There's narcissistic abuse, pre and post. This is post. Pre was nice. Here's why. I think in some ways it was it's my default setting to be nice, but also it was like a fear of rejection or a fear of like being not accepted, or like some it was some lack of like, oh, people please. So like, I don't want you to be mad at me because I don't want to like sit with you being mad at me, because then that means like I have to like, it's unsure of myself, low self, whatever.
Yeah,
So I think I did kind things then out of the goodness of my heart. However, now I don't just give it away like that. Like, I'm always kind, but like, I'm not going to go over the top for you if you don't. And like, it's more intentional now versus the niceness might have been a little bit fear-based too. Like, if I would have walked into a room when I was 25, like I did in corporate, and the CEO was there, I'd walk in and be like, oh God, just blend in, like, maybe nice. Do you need coffee? No, it's fine. I can get it. Like, you don't have to get that. And now I would walk in and I'd be nice, but I don't need to like kiss your ass.
Yeah.
I'm a person just like you. I'm going to be kind to me and be kind to you. Like, it's just a different, and then, but also if you were to, happy to get you, like, I'm happy to do things, but it's like a more self-assured, I don't know, it's less like manipulatable. It's out of the goodness of my heart, and it's more, I just know who I am,
It's more sincere. Whereas
Yes.
before, and
Yes.
again,
It
we
is.
have to be careful, because not yourself, but I think
No.
anyone who's listening, the fear of rejection, the fear of not, of operating from fear. And I don't like the term people pleaser, because the violence and the pain that a child has to go through to want to contort themselves, or
Yeah.
an adult or whoever, to contort themselves to other people's needs, is not something that it's not a shame that they should carry,
Yeah.
but those who inflicted the wounds
Sure.
to begin with.
Yep.
And I think that absolutely we're still capable of kindness, but I think that, and again, maybe the best analogy is something that I watched yesterday, and it was an Islamic video. So it's Ramadan right
Oh,
now.
yes. Well wishes to you, right?
Thank you so much, love. And a quarter of humanity are fasting at the moment, and in the religious space, and I won't talk too much about because it's not
Sure.
really
Absolutely.
sort of an area of specialism, but it used to be, but not anymore. Um, Forgiveness is a religious buzzword, and
Ugh.
it's very difficult. And selflessness is something else that, or generosity. But specifically, if I talk about forgiveness, and there was a wonderful video of a sort of a rising star in the Islamic space, and someone who I'm now a big fan of, actually.
Yeah.
And she said, "Your marriage is not supposed to make you suffer. Your religion is not supposed to make you suffer. You are not required to forgive anyone you don't want to. And so if your kindness makes you suffer, then there's something to shift about that. That means that it's not truly kindness. So if a religion or if a spiritual source is taking something away from you, then that means that there is a misinterpretation of that. Because we think that only when we suffer or only when we give in at a loss to ourselves that we're doing good. But if we think of it not just self-protection, but if your marriage is making you suffer, it's not good for anyone. It's not good for you. It's not good for your family. It's not good for the concept of marriage. It's not good for children. It's not good for neighbors. So in the same way, the kindness that is given, the niceness that's
Sure.
given as a form of people pleasing, actually many years later, and I remember, you know, speaking to friends again, and I remember being, a lot more, much more of a people pleaser back then, and speaking to them, and they said, Meryl, we always felt uncomfortable. We always felt like it wasn't quite needed, but we thought that this was a way of you expressing your feelings. And I could have taken that was, oh, you didn't appreciate me, but actually, people pleasing in and of itself, niceness in and of itself, doesn't work for anyone involved. But kindness from this self assured place,
Yes.
actually, you're doing a favor for all parties involved. Because maybe the CEO doesn't require that. Maybe the situation doesn't even require you to be overly
Yeah.
smiley. And again, when I talk about why kindness is effective and what a kind person is, they do exactly what the situation requires. And I'll say it again, they do exactly. There is a humility, there is a surrender to the situation. It's about clarity of sight, it's about clarity of vision.
I'm having since you see me having all these like realizations about life.
Think of the
Sorry.
story. You and I have seen narcissists for most of our lives. What do? They almost, it's almost as if there's a hallucination in how situations are received. So that is unproductive. Or for example, at work, when someone says, for example, they want to work in a different way. Let's say someone wants to work with headphones in. There's nothing confidential or nothing being dealt with that would stop them. And the boss says, no, you've got to do it this way because I don't want to see your headphones. For the sake of productivity, you would give in to the situation.
Right.
You wouldn't try to transform it into something that it's not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's what it is. And you're
It's
giving situations now what it requires. Whereas before it was perhaps what it could require or a
yeah,
fear of the unknown. And the same with myself.
so interesting. Oh my gosh, my whole life is flashing before my no, because you've got such an interesting experience of like growing up, cultural influences, going into law, and then now you're shifting into psychology. So you've got the educational kind of academic piece of psychology, and then you've also got the adversity warrior, what it's like to go through stuff. And for anyone listening right now that might be going through like the narcissistic, they've heard me talk about like, therapy's helped me. How do you think kindness, if you're kind of recovering from a narcissistic relationship, or you might be in one and you're like, how can you use kindness to help you through like the aftermath of like a narcissist? And I know that's a big question, but like what comes to mind because you would think you have to be like, no, like, but actually that doesn't work because like you'll never win with a narcissist, right?
I love your questions, Brie, as much as I love you.
I've tried. Doesn't work.
No,
Turns out you just be quiet.
no. Do you know what? If someone had asked me that question a year ago, I wouldn't have been able to answer it. But today, by the miracles of the universe, I actually do. And the answer is this: look at what you invested in that relationship. Look at how productive you were in meeting that person's needs. When that person was being unfaithful to you, look at the regard and the love and the investment that you poured into that person, and look at how it changed their life. Look at how valuable you are, that you were selected as the creme de la creme of humanity, because the narcissist does not go for the couch potato. They go for the independent, spiritually protected, and I say goosebumps,
Oh,
individuals who were sent for change. And I believe that narcissists were sent to as a failed, and it's always a failed attempt to disarm those who are there for the betterment of humanity. So look at what you accomplished, because something that I've found, which is a common thread in narcissistic relationships, is that one is the narcissist, one is the empath, because of course they're not going to go for other people. Empaths struggle to do things for themselves. They struggle to show up for themselves. They struggle to invest in themselves. But with the narcissist, they'll go to the moon and back 10 times a day. And what happens?
oh, close that. Sorry. There we go.
No
Continue.
problem. No problem. And if you look back at, and I know people who've been in relationships with narcissists for 20, 30 years, look at the way that you've created gardens and accomplishment, and you've fortified their lives, you've protected them, you've been a safeguard, you've improved their reputation, you've protected them, you've made them glitter. In narcissistic relationships, empaths and other kind people can see the height and the might of their power. And that is where kindness comes in. The kindness of seeing yourself, the kindness of recognizing your own kindness and how it made their world a garden. It made their world a paradise. And the best thing that individuals who are going through narcissistic abuse can do for the aftermath, but also getting out of it, is if you could do this for someone who is devoid of empathy, look what you can do for yourself. Look what is within you, that where you struggle to, for example, do something for yourself because of difficulties with executive functioning. But most empaths have gone to the moon and back for narcissists, and they've reaped the rewards. So kindness is also looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing the value and the power that you have. And what would that look like? Redirecting it back to myself.
That is so good. Because I'm literally like, I was just taking it in as you were saying every word, and like it's a complete redirection of energy.
Yeah.
Like you said, imagine when you would like give, give, give to the narcissist, then the minute you ask for something, you get shit on or whatever, or you
Mm.
set a boundary, you get shit on.
Yeah.
And like, imagine the feeling of giving kindness, and we've all felt it, to people who genuinely are like, thank you. Then it's like fireworks because, well, psychologically, you have those like mirror neurons. Everybody's firing. Everyone's happy. It's you get so much, but like with a narcissistic relationship, you give to an empty vessel. You get nothing back. So stop. The only way is stop.
Yeah.
And redirect that kindness, not guilt, not shame, not why did I not stay in
Mm.
this? I knew all the signs. Why did all my friends? I did that for a while where
Mm.
I would just like kickbox myself. That doesn't work. Kindness gets you through that. Like you said, the path to healing is kindness,
Yeah.
not
And
blame and shame, right?
and this is what, and absolutely, because, and I don't know, maybe it's because of my own experiences, but having, with me, I think the universe had to really give me several uh, experiences or several goes
Mm, sorry.
at overcoming the narcissists, once and for all. But I think the most recent encounter with narcissism was one that forced me to look at myself in the mirror and just see the beauty and the good that exists, and not in a vain way,
No.
but in the good that can come from me. And all I need to do is redirect that. Now, I know people who have also gone through the guilt and the self-blame, and I have also gone through that. But
Yeah.
the wonderful thing is that, and it's not wonderful, it's actually very painful, but a lot of the time
Yeah.
narcissistic abuse survivors are racked with guilt. How could I have put myself through that? I wrote a poem, and it was something along the lines of, the soul comes to the door and says, how could you? How could you? How could you, every night? But the only thing that can overcome the guilt of the soul is to remind the soul that everything that I have given, none of it has been taken away. It's still there. It just needs to be redirected. So reminding oneself of the beauty and the honor of being such a light that these dark troops consider it such a mission to overcome and to dissolve. And remembering that that abundance is never ever going to go away. It will not be diminished. As long as one is alive,
Mm.
that soul can be rebuilt.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. It's the kindness, like you said, like your was it your professor that said kindness is the thread, or some, it was in all your work,
The business
all of
mentor, yeah.
yeah, like all of the adversity I've gone through and all the guests I've had, yourself included. It seems like when the dust settles of the adversity, when they reflect back on getting through it, whether it's cancer, breakups, narcissistic abuse, writing a book, losing a job, starting a new company, breaking your back and falling off scaffolding. This guy fell 18 feet. I'm like, broke his back. I'm going to talk about that. I'm just
Yeah.
thinking of all like trying to be a stand up comedian, going through miscarriages, losing people, like any adversity.
Mm.
I don't know that any of them could get through that hardest part
Mm.
of whatever the hard part was without kindness towards themselves. Can
And
you?
do you know what, you say it so well, and I think again, a kindness is a soul with many forms, and it's this multi-dimensional thing. So even if it's mercy or
Mm,
rescuing,
love
so
that word.
kind people a lot
Mercy.
of the time feel alone, and loneliness is something that I have also experienced for much of
Yeah.
my life. Because when you operate from a different wavelength, you're not going to find camaraderie very quickly. But there are times where adversities have been so high that other people have felt repelled by it. So you've been forced into a space of, okay, I have no one but myself, and I am going to take my own hand. And whether that is truly kindness or whether that is saving, I almost feel as if empaths are required, not, that it's a rite of passage to be subject to narcissistic abuse, but we're almost put into situations where we're required to touch the warmth of our own hand because everyone else has held our hand but ourselves. So and I really want whoever is listening, if you think that kindness is difficult to aspire to, self-kindness is difficult to aspire to, think of the times that you've saved, rescued, and given mercy to yourself, just a bit of allowance, even withdrawn from harsh light or withdrawn from someone who's broken your heart momentarily. You are already on the way. And that is your path, and that is to be acknowledged in the context of narcissistic abuse. Because I know that a lot of and this is why I say, Brie, is that with companies like ROK, with platforms like Adventures in Adversity, kind people feel like there is a way for them to be renewed again, for them to have a chance again at trying. Because the guilt is so much, or the trauma is so much, it's so debilitating. But these moments can give them a reason to try again, to believe that the world has something to offer them. Because this is a huge venture, and most of the time I get said no to, or sometimes things fall through. I don't know, but ROK is giving me a reason to live because I have been in so many situations where I've seen that this perspective is needed, that there is still so much to live for. And when you reach a certain level of stability, you are then able to come into the space of change making and anyone who's ever made any change in the world, any difference in the world, has had to go through hell to be able to assert themselves in the spotlight.
That is so beautifully said. And I'm so glad you're doing it. And I think this is going to be the first of many times, hopefully, that you come on the podcast, because I would love to just have this as a thread, a partnership, that kindness is the vehicle to get through adversity, to help yourself through it, to help others through it, to help companies through tough times. It's I just want to thank you, because I know we could talk for about 4 more hours, and we probably will, and then I just want to thank you for connecting with me on Instagram, for like sharing your life with us. And I know we talked before this, just like we've kind of like bonded, and I love what you're doing. I love like the psychology and the research behind it, and like, for the business geeks, the ROI of kindness, like it's compelling. And also for anyone out there listening, you are very peaceful and soothing and calm, and like, but you emanate like a strength. So I think even just you talking about kindness and starting this consultancy, you're already rebranding it. So good job to you. The rebranding campaign has begun.
Well, Brie, I feel so blessed because people spend years looking for the right platforms and the right people to connect. And it's been less than a year of ROK. And I feel very emotional even saying this, but I cannot be more grateful. You opened your arms, you opened your heart, you gave me your time. And I think that Adventures in Adversity, I'm telling you as someone who has gone through similar situations, that you're giving people a reason to believe and to try again. And so many people fall through the first hurdle of the pain. The pain, it defines them, and they move, and they never quite recover. They never quite get over it. But the way that mic was gifted to you, and the way that you took that spiritual assault and you turned it into this platform, and you did it in an extraordinarily short amount of time, given the impact of narcissistic abuse otherwise. It is my exclusive honor and my privilege.
Oh my gosh, Meral. You're so amazing. Thank you so much. That is like the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. Thank you.
No, it's truly my honor and my pleasure, and I would be here every week, and I
Maybe
can't
you
wait
will.
to work with you. And I
Well,
think
we're just gonna have to. Maybe we'll just plan that then. Every Friday with Meral. Kindness. Okay, it's happening. No, I seriously, I can't thank you enough. I'm gonna put in the show notes all the links to all of where everybody can learn more about you on your Instagram page, website, ROK, Results of Kindness. You work with organizations. I'm gonna put it all together so that people can find you. And I think this is the first of many.
I'm sure it is. Thank you so
Yes.
much, Brie. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And we'll talk very soon.
Thank you, my love.
Okay.
Thank you for everything. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.